What are the key differences between artificial insemination (AI) and natural mating in animal breeding, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of each method? Answer: Artificial insemination (AI) and natural mating are both reproductive methods used in animal breeding, but they differ significantly in technique and application. Artificial insemination (AI) involves the collection of sperm from a male animal and its introduction into the female reproductive tract using various methods such as cervical insemination or transcervical insemination. Natural mating involves the direct copulation between a male and female animal. Advantages of AI: genetic improvement. AI allows for the use of superior genetic material from high-quality males, which may not be available for natural mating. Disease control. AI can help prevent the spread of venereal diseases that can occur through natural mating. Cost efficiency and long term. Although the upfront cost may be high due to the need for equipment and sperm collection, it may result in better genetic outcomes over time. Disadvantages of AI: requires skilled technicians. AI needs professionals trained to perform the procedure correctly. Sperm quality. Sperm must be handled carefully to maintain its viability. Advantages of natural mating: simplicity. No need for artificial equipment or procedures. High success rates in some cases. Natural mating often results in higher conception rates in certain species. Disadvantages of natural mating: risk of injury. Male animals may injure females during mating. Limited genetic selection. There is less control over the genetic quality of offspring compared to AI. What is the significance of monitoring a pregnant animal, and what are the key methods used to ensure a successful pregnancy and delivery? Answer: monitoring a pregnant animal is essential to ensure the health of both the mother and the offspring and to prevent complications during pregnancy and parturition. Key methods include regular veterinary checks. A veterinarian may perform regular physical exams and use ultrasound imaging to assess the health of the fetus and the development of pregnancy. Blood tests. Blood tests may be done to check for any signs of infection, nutritional deficiencies, or abnormal hormone levels. Body condition scoring. Monitoring the animal's body condition ensures it is maintaining adequate nutrition levels, which is essential for the growth of the fetus. Temperature and heart rate monitoring. Monitoring the temperature and heart rate of the mother can help identify signs of infection or stress which could affect the pregnancy. In addition, proper nutrition and parasite control are critical during pregnancy to support fetal development and reduce the risk of complications. Mr. Taylor is a farmer who has a herd of dairy cows. One of his cows, Bella, is pregnant and is nearing her due date. Mr. Taylor has noticed Bella becoming restless and appears to be having trouble lying down. What steps should Mr. Taylor take to ensure the safe delivery of the calf? Answer: Mr. Taylor should follow these steps to ensure the safe delivery of Bella's calf. Monitor for signs of parturition. Mr. Taylor should closely observe Bella for signs of labor such as increased restlessness, pawing at the ground, and the appearance of a mucus discharge. Prepare for delivery. He should make sure the birthing area is clean, dry, and safe. The environment should be free of stresses, as stress can complicate delivery. Call a veterinarian. If Bella has trouble delivering the calf, as suggested by her difficulty lying down, Mr. Taylor should call a veterinarian immediately to assess whether there are any complications, such as dystocia, difficult labor, provide assistance. If Bella begins to deliver, naturally Mr. Taylor should assist by gently pulling the calf's legs, but only if the veterinarian instructs him to do so. Too much force can cause injury. After birth care. After the calf is born, Mr. Taylor should ensure that it begins breathing, stands, and nurses soon after birth to receive colostrum. The first milk. He should monitor the calf's health closely. Post-birth care. Both Bella and her calf should be observed for any signs of postpartum complications such as retained placenta or infection. What is the role of vaccinations in disease prevention for farm animals, and how should a vaccination schedule be developed? Answer: vaccinations play a critical role in preventing infectious diseases that can affect livestock, including respiratory infections, bacterial diseases, and viral diseases. Vaccination stimulates the immune system to produce antibodies, providing protection against specific pathogens. To develop a vaccination schedule, consider the following factors. Species-specific needs. Different species of animals require different vaccines. For example, cattle might need vaccines for brucellosis, while sheep might need vaccines for clostridial diseases. Age of the animal. Young animals often require a series of vaccines at specific intervals to build immunity. For example, calves may require their first vaccination at birth or shortly after, with boosters administered until they are 6 months old. Regional disease risks. The prevalence of certain diseases in a specific region should be taken into account. For example, in areas prone to foot and mouth disease, vaccination against that disease is critical, boosters and timing. Regular booster shots are necessary to maintain immunity. Vaccination schedules should specify the timing of these boosters, which may vary depending on the type of vaccine, annual, biannual, etc. Discuss the role of parasite control in animal health and describe some of the common methods used to manage parasites in livestock. Answer: parasite control is essential in maintaining the health and productivity of livestock. Internal parasites, such as worms, and external parasites like lice or ticks can cause a range of issues including weight loss, anemia, and disease transmission. Common methods of parasite control include anthelmintics. These are drugs used to treat internal parasites. They are often administered orally or through injection and work by killing or expelling the parasites. Fecal egg count (FEC). Regular fecal examinations can help identify the presence of internal parasites by counting the number of eggs in fecal samples. This helps in determining the need for treatment. Rotational grazing. Rotating animals between different grazing areas can help reduce the buildup of parasitic larvae in the pasture. Deworming. Routine deworming is essential in areas where parasites are common. External parasite treatments. External parasites such as lice and ticks are often treated with sprays, powders, or pour-on treatments. Biosecurity. Limiting contact between animals and contaminated environments is another critical aspect of parasite control. What are the key aspects of the parturition process in animals, and how should a caretaker recognize when veterinary assistance is necessary? Answer: the parturition process or birth is divided into 3 stages. Stage 1: preparation for birth, where the cervix dilates and the animal may exhibit restlessness and nesting behaviors. Stage 2: active labor, when the fetus begins to move through the birth canal. The mother may push and display strong contractions. This stage ends with the birth of the offspring. Stage 3: delivery of the placenta, which occurs shortly after the birth of the young. A caretaker should be alert to the following signs that may indicate a need for veterinary assistance. Prolonged stage 1. If the first stage lasts more than 12 hours without progression into the second stage, assistance may be necessary. Dystocia, difficult birth. If the animal shows signs of straining without the birth progressing, or if the fetus appears stuck in the birth canal, veterinary help is essential. Normal presentation. If the calf, lamb, or other offspring is presented in an abnormal position, e.g., breech, immediate intervention is required. Failure to expel the placenta. If the placenta is not expelled within 12 hours after birth, this could lead to infections requiring veterinary intervention. Explain how the timing of pregnancy in animals impacts the care and management strategies employed by animal breeders. Answer: the timing of pregnancy has significant implications for animal breeders, as it directly affects the management of the mother and offspring during pregnancy, labor, and post-birth. Factors to consider include gestation periods. Different species have different gestation periods, which require breeders to tailor their care protocols accordingly. For example, cattle have a gestation period of about 283 days, while pigs have a much shorter one, around 114 days. Nutrition. As pregnancy progresses, the nutritional demands of the mother increase. For example, in the second and third trimesters, protein, energy, and minerals like calcium and phosphorus become more important. Health monitoring. Pregnant animals require regular health checks to ensure that they are free from infections or diseases that could impact the pregnancy. Vaccinations. Timing vaccinations appropriately is critical. Some vaccines should not be administered during pregnancy, while others can be given to protect both the mother and the fetus. Preparation for birth. Animal breeders must prepare for parturition by ensuring that the birthing area is clean and free of distractions, and that the appropriate equipment, such as birthing tools, is ready for use. What are the potential risks of not properly handling medication administration in animals, especially regarding antibiotics and vaccines? Answer: improper handling and administration of medications, especially antibiotics and vaccines, can lead to several risks. Antibiotic resistance. Overuse or incorrect use of antibiotics can lead to the development of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, making infections harder to treat in both animals and humans. Toxicity. Incorrect dosages can lead to toxicity, causing harm to the animal's organs and systems. Vaccine failure. Failure to store vaccines at the correct temperature or to administer them at the right time can reduce their effectiveness, leaving the animal vulnerable to diseases. Injury or infection. Incorrect injection techniques, such as administering vaccines or antibiotics into the wrong tissue or at the wrong site, can cause infections or injury to the animal. Breeders and caretakers must follow the manufacturer's guidelines for each medication and consult with veterinarians to ensure proper administration. Why is post-birth care crucial for both the mother and the offspring, and what are the key components of post-birth care for animals? Answer: post-birth care is essential to ensure that both the mother and the offspring recover properly and remain healthy. Key components of post-birth care include monitoring for complications. The mother should be monitored for signs of postpartum complications such as retained placenta infections or uterine prolapse, providing colostrum. It is essential that the offspring receives colostrum, the first milk, within the first few hours of life, as it contains essential antibodies that protect against diseases. Caring for the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord of the newborn should be treated to prevent infection. Nutritional support. Both mother and offspring should be fed appropriately after birth, and the mother should be allowed to rest and recover from the exertions of labor. Health monitoring. Regular health checks should be conducted on both mother and offspring to ensure they are in good health and free of diseases or complications. What are the common veterinary procedures used to treat sick or injured animals, and how do they contribute to disease prevention? Answer: common veterinary procedures include vaccination. Vaccines prevent diseases by stimulating the immune system to produce antibodies without causing the disease itself. Surgical procedures. Surgery may be necessary for correcting injuries, removing tumors, or other conditions that require immediate attention. Parasite control. Treatments such as dewormers and flea or tick preventatives reduce the likelihood of parasitic infestations. Antibiotic therapy, used to treat bacterial infections. Antibiotics help animals recover from conditions that may otherwise be fatal. Routine health checks. Regular checkups can help detect diseases in their early stages, allowing for timely intervention and preventing the spread of disease. These procedures ensure that animals remain healthy, reducing the risk of disease transmission and improving overall herd or flock productivity. Explain the importance of environmental enrichment in animal enclosures. Answer: environmental enrichment is essential to promote natural behaviors in animals, prevent stress, and enhance overall well-being. This concept is vital in captive settings where animals do not have the same environmental stimuli as they would in the wild. Enrichment strategies include providing varied food sources, social interactions, physical space for movement, sensory stimuli, and opportunities for exploration. The importance of environmental enrichment is underlined in regulations such as the Australian Animal Welfare Standards and Guidelines, which require that animals in enclosures have their behavioral and psychological needs met. The guidelines recommend offering enrichment that caters to the species' natural behaviors such as foraging, climbing, or hiding. Key guidelines. Animal Welfare Act 1992, Australia, outlines the requirement to ensure the mental and physical well-being of animals, emphasizing enrichment. Specific standards may vary between animal species, so understanding the unique needs of each is critical. How should temperature, lighting, and ventilation needs be managed in animal housing? Answer: temperature, lighting, and ventilation are critical components of animal housing as they directly affect animal health, behavior, and reproduction. Different species have unique needs, so these factors must be tailored accordingly. Temperature. The ambient temperature should be adjusted to suit the animal's natural habitat. For example, reptiles may require heat lamps to simulate basking temperatures, while nocturnal animals may need cooler, dimmer environments during daylight hours. Lighting. Animals with diurnal or nocturnal behaviors need a controlled light-dark cycle, providing appropriate lighting conditions. GUVB lighting for reptiles ensures the animal's biological rhythms are supported. Ventilation. Proper airflow is crucial for maintaining air quality and reducing the buildup of ammonia or other harmful gases. This is particularly important in confined spaces to prevent respiratory problems and to maintain a healthy environment. Regulatory reference. The Australian Animal Welfare Standards and Guidelines, ventilation and temperature regulations. Mr. Carter is managing a wildlife rehabilitation center. He notices that the temperature in the enclosure for the koalas is too high, potentially causing stress. What should Mr. Carter do in this situation? Answer: Mr. Carter should immediately adjust the temperature in the koala enclosure to meet the natural thermal comfort range for koalas. Koalas are native to Australia's coastal and hinterland forests, and their optimal temperature range is typically between 20 and 25 deg. Temperatures above 30 can cause heat stress, potentially leading to dehydration or even death. First, Mr. Carter should use thermostats and temperature control systems to lower the temperature. He should ensure that the enclosure provides shaded areas and cooling opportunities, such as misting systems or access to water for the koalas. Monitoring should continue to ensure the environment stays within an acceptable range. This action aligns with the Australian Animal Welfare Standards for the maintenance of animal health, which require that enclosures be kept at suitable temperatures to avoid undue stress or harm to the animals. What are the ethical considerations in wildlife management, particularly when dealing with endangered species? Answer: ethical considerations in wildlife management are crucial for ensuring that conservation efforts respect the welfare of the animals and ecosystems. Some key ethical principles include minimizing harm. Conservation actions, such as relocation or captive breeding programs, must minimize harm to the animals involved. Any intervention should be based on sound scientific data and consideration of the species' natural behaviors. Respecting biodiversity. Wildlife management practices must respect the intrinsic value of species, maintaining genetic diversity and preventing the extinction of vulnerable species. Human-wildlife conflict. Addressing issues of human-wildlife conflict requires consideration of both the welfare of the species involved and the safety of human populations. Non-lethal methods of control, such as habitat modification, should be prioritized over lethal interventions. Regulatory reference. The National Conservation Act 1999 Australia focuses on protecting endangered species and ensuring that wildlife management respects both animal welfare and ecological sustainability. What are some common threats to wildlife populations, and how can these be mitigated in wildlife management? Answer: common threats to wildlife populations include habitat loss. Due to urbanization, deforestation, and agricultural expansion, many species face the destruction or fragmentation of their natural habitats. This can be mitigated by establishing protected areas, wildlife corridors, and habitat restoration projects. Poaching and illegal trade. Illegal hunting and the trade of endangered species are significant threats. Strong law enforcement, awareness campaigns, and international cooperation are necessary to combat these practices. Climate change. Altered weather patterns, temperature extremes, and habitat shifts can disrupt species habitats and migration patterns. Wildlife management strategies may involve the relocation of species to more suitable environments or the protection of vulnerable habitats. Guidelines. The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species CITES provides a framework for preventing illegal trade and managing the international movement of species. The Australian government's National Recovery Plan addresses the conservation and management of at-risk species. Describe the role of zoos and sanctuaries in wildlife conservation. Answer: zoos and sanctuaries play a significant role in wildlife conservation by breeding programs. Many species that are endangered or extinct in the wild are bred in zoos and sanctuaries as part of species recovery programs. These programs ensure genetic diversity and provide animals with the opportunity to be reintroduced into the wild. Education and awareness. Zoos and sanctuaries are vital for educating the public about wildlife conservation issues. Through visitor programs and research, they foster a deeper understanding of the need to protect endangered species. Research. Many zoos and sanctuaries conduct critical research into animal behavior, breeding, and conservation techniques. This research helps inform both captive and field conservation efforts. Regulatory reference. The Zoo and Aquarium Association ZA sets standards for the ethical care of animals in zoos and sanctuaries across Australia. How do different species' habitat requirements influence the design of animal enclosures? Answer: the habitat requirements of different species must be the foundation for designing effective enclosures. Species-specific factors include space. For example, large carnivores such as lions or tigers require large enclosures to roam, while small mammals like rodents need smaller but enriched spaces that encourage natural behaviors like burrowing. Shelter. Arboreal species like primates or koalas need vertical space for climbing, while burrowing species like meerkats require tunnels and underground spaces. Environmental conditions. Enclosures must meet species-specific requirements for temperature, humidity, light, and ventilation. For example, reptiles need access to UVB lighting for calcium metabolism, while aquatic species need temperature-regulated water systems. Regulatory reference. The Australian Animal Welfare Standards provide species-specific recommendations for enclosure design, ensuring adequate space, environmental conditions, and enrichment opportunities. What is the role of animal sanctuaries in the rehabilitation of wildlife? Answer: animal sanctuaries play a key role in the rehabilitation of wildlife by providing safe environments. Sanctuaries offer animals a safe environment free from human threats or exploitation. This is especially critical for animals rescued from illegal trade or inhuman conditions. Rehabilitation. Many sanctuaries focus on rehabilitation efforts where injured or sick animals are cared for until they are fit to return to the wild. However, some animals may remain in sanctuaries permanently if they are unable to survive independently. Conservation advocacy. Sanctuaries often advocate for better wildlife protection laws and collaborate with governments and conservation organizations to protect habitats. Key legislation. The Wildlife Protection Act 2000 Australia regulates the care and rehabilitation of native species, ensuring ethical and safe practices. What are the primary goals of wildlife conservation and how do they impact animal welfare practices? Answer: the primary goals of wildlife conservation include preventing extinction by conserving habitats and protecting species from poaching and exploitation. Conservation efforts aim to prevent the extinction of vulnerable species. Protecting biodiversity. Conservation efforts focus on maintaining genetic diversity, which is essential for species survival and adaptability in changing environments. Sustainable management. This involves ensuring that human activities do not adversely affect wildlife populations through the implementation of sustainable practices in agriculture, fishing, and development. Impact on animal welfare. Conservation practices must ensure that the welfare of individual animals is maintained, which includes proper habitat management, minimal disturbance, and appropriate handling during research and rehabilitation. Relevant laws. The Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act 1999, Australia, provides legal frameworks for species conservation, balancing the needs of wildlife conservation and animal welfare. Mr. Thomas is responsible for designing an enclosure for a group of African elephants in a zoo. He needs to ensure that the design caters to the physical and psychological needs of the elephants. What specific factors should Mr. Thomas consider when designing the enclosure? Answer: Mr. Thomas should consider the following factors when designing the enclosure for African elephants. Size and space. African elephants require vast spaces to roam, ideally with areas for foraging, dust bathing, and swimming. The enclosure should replicate the conditions of a savanna or forested area. Social needs. Elephants are social animals, so the enclosure should allow for herd dynamics, providing opportunities for interactions with other elephants. Environmental enrichment. To prevent boredom and stress, the enclosure should include objects that encourage natural behaviors such as foraging, mud wallows, and varied terrain. Shelter and shade. Elephants need shelter from the sun, particularly in hot climates. Shade trees or shelters must be incorporated into the design. Regulatory reference. The Zoo and Aquarium Association standards recommend large, enriched enclosures for elephants, emphasizing social and behavioral needs in captivity. What are the key characteristics that differentiate the behavior and care needs of a working dog breed, G. Border Collie, compared to a companion dog breed, G. Cavalier King Charles Spaniel? Answer: working dog breeds like the Border Collie are bred for specific tasks such as herding, which influences their high energy levels, intelligence, and strong work ethic. These dogs require consistent physical exercise, mental stimulation, and training to prevent boredom and associated behavioral issues like excessive barking or destructiveness. Border Collies often display problem-solving skills and thrive in environments where they can engage in tasks or agility sports. Companion dog breeds such as the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel are primarily bred for companionship and emotional support. These dogs are more sociable and adaptable to family environments but require moderate physical activity. They may experience separation anxiety if left alone for extended periods and thrive on regular interaction with their owners. Understanding these differences helps animal care professionals provide tailored care, ensuring the animal's mental and physical needs are met. For instance, working breeds may benefit from structured routines, while companion breeds require nurturing and attention to their emotional well-being. Proper breed-specific care prevents health and behavioral problems and improves the quality of life for these animals. How do animal welfare laws regulate the treatment of animals in pet stores, and what are the ethical responsibilities of pet store owners to ensure animal well-being under such laws? Answer: animal welfare laws, such as the Animal Welfare Act, outline strict standards for the treatment of animals in pet stores to ensure their physical and psychological well-being. These regulations mandate that animals receive adequate food, clean water, proper shelter, and access to veterinary care. Specific requirements include maintaining clean and appropriately sized enclosures, preventing overcrowding, and ensuring safe handling practices to minimize stress. Pet store owners must also comply with local regulations, such as limiting the number of animals in their care and providing daily enrichment activities tailored to each species. Ethically, store owners are responsible for promoting humane practices, such as avoiding the sale of animals from unregulated breeders or mills. Failure to adhere to these laws can result in penalties, including fines, license suspension, or legal action. Additionally, public perception plays a critical role in the business's success as consumers increasingly prioritize animal welfare. Ethical pet store management ensures compliance and builds trust, fostering a positive environment for animals, employees, and customers alike. Sarah is the manager of a pet transport service, and she is preparing to ship a batch of exotic birds to a client in another state. The birds are classified under the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora CITES regulations. Sarah notices that the shipping documents are incomplete, lacking required permits for the transportation of the endangered species. What steps should Sarah take to ensure compliance with animal transport and export regulations before proceeding with the shipment? Answer: Sarah must halt the shipment immediately upon noticing the incomplete documents, as the birds are listed under CITES. Transporting them without the necessary permits violates international and domestic wildlife protection laws. The first step is to contact the relevant authorities, such as the Department of Environment or Wildlife Services, to determine the exact permits required for legal transport. Additionally, Sarah must review the shipping process to ensure it complies with animal welfare standards, including proper enclosures, temperature regulation, and minimized handling stress. She should arrange for the birds to undergo veterinary checks to ensure their fitness for transport and meet quarantine requirements if applicable. Failing to comply could result in severe legal penalties, such as confiscation of the birds or fines. Furthermore, mishandling such situations can harm Sarah's business reputation and undermine trust with clients. Adhering to these steps ensures compliance with CITES regulations and upholds the ethical standards expected in the animal transport industry. In a context of livestock care, what are the key legislative requirements for ensuring the humane slaughter of animals, and how do these regulations ensure ethical treatment during the slaughter process? Answer: the humane slaughter of livestock is governed by laws such as the Australian Meat Industry Code of Practice and the Animal Welfare Act, which establish protocols to minimize pain and distress. Key requirements include stunning the animal before slaughter to render it unconscious and insensible to pain. Accepted methods of stunning include electrical, mechanical, or gas systems, depending on the species. Facilities must be designed to reduce stress, ensuring animals are handled calmly and not exposed to the sight or sound of others being slaughtered. Trained personnel are required to monitor the process, ensuring compliance with humane practices. Additionally, the slaughterhouse is subject to regular audits by animal welfare organizations and government bodies. These regulations reflect ethical obligations to respect animal dignity and welfare, even in the context of food production. By implementing these practices, the industry maintains public trust, improves product quality, and aligns with consumer demands for ethical treatment of animals. How does understanding an animal's natural behaviors aid in providing effective care, and what are the consequences of not accommodating these behaviors in captive environments? Answer: understanding natural behaviors is critical for providing species-appropriate care. Animals express behaviors such as foraging, hunting, socializing, or nesting, which are essential for their mental and physical health. For instance, providing a parrot with enrichment toys simulates foraging, while a rabbit's enclosure should include burrowing materials to mimic its natural environment. Failure to accommodate these behaviors can lead to stress, frustration, and abnormal behaviors like pacing, aggression, or self-mutilation. Long-term neglect of natural instincts may also result in physical health issues such as obesity or weakened immunity. Effective care involves designing environments and routines that enable animals to exhibit these behaviors, such as adding climbing structures for arboreal species or maintaining social groups for herd animals. This approach not only enhances the animal's quality of life, but also ensures compliance with welfare standards and ethical guidelines in animal care. What are the primary occupational health and safety risks in animal care facilities, and how can these risks be mitigated to comply with relevant workplace safety laws? Answer: occupational health and safety risks in animal care facilities include injuries from animal bites or scratches, zoonotic disease transmission, ergonomic injuries from handling heavy equipment or animals, and exposure to hazardous chemicals like cleaning agents or anesthetics. Laws such as the Work Health and Safety Act mandate employers to identify these risks and implement control measures. To mitigate these risks, facilities must establish protocols for safe animal handling, including training staff in species-specific behaviors and warning signs of aggression. Personal protective equipment, PPE, such as gloves, masks, and safety boots, should be provided to minimize exposure to injuries and diseases. Employers must also ensure proper ventilation systems and safe storage for chemicals to reduce health hazards. Regular risk assessments and staff training are essential to maintain compliance and address emerging risks. Additionally, maintaining incident logs and adhering to emergency response protocols ensures preparedness for accidents. These measures protect workers' health, enhance operational efficiency, and demonstrate adherence to legal and ethical workplace safety standards. David, a new wildlife rehabilitator, encounters a bird that he suspects is a protected species due to its distinctive plumage and markings. The bird has a red crown, black body, and white wing patches. Unsure of the species, David prepares to identify it and decide on the next steps for care. What steps should David take to confirm the bird's species and comply with wildlife regulations? Answer: David should first document the bird's physical traits through photos and written descriptions, including size, color patterns, and any unique markings. He should consult authoritative resources such as field guides, wildlife databases, or local ornithologists to identify the species. If the bird is suspected to be protected, David must contact wildlife authorities such as the Department of Environment and Conservation for verification and guidance. Once identified, David must ensure that his actions comply with regulations under the Wildlife Conservation Act. This may involve obtaining permits for handling or rehabilitating the bird. He must also provide appropriate care, ensuring the bird's needs align with its natural habitat and dietary requirements. Failing to follow these steps could result in legal repercussions and harm the bird's welfare. By adhering to these guidelines, David ensures ethical treatment, conservation of the species, and compliance with wildlife protection laws. What are the key animal welfare considerations during long-distance transport of livestock, and how do these align with international guidelines such as the OIE Terrestrial Animal Health Code? Answer: long-distance livestock transport requires adherence to welfare principles to minimize stress and injury. Key considerations include proper ventilation, sufficient space for animals to move, and access to food and water during extended journeys. Vehicles must be designed to prevent slips and falls, with appropriate temperature control systems to avoid heat stress or hypothermia. The OIE Terrestrial Animal Health Code outlines international standards for humane transport, emphasizing pre-transport planning, fitness assessment of animals for travel, and minimizing transit time. Transporters must also have contingency plans for emergencies, such as vehicle breakdowns or health issues among the animals. These guidelines align with ethical obligations to ensure animal well-being and comply with local transport laws. Adherence to these standards enhances the quality of life for animals during transit, reduces mortality rates, and ensures consumer confidence in the livestock industry. How should an animal care professional handle a situation where they suspect animal abuse, and what ethical and legal obligations guide their actions? Answer: when an animal care professional suspects abuse, their first obligation is to ensure the animal's immediate safety without jeopardizing their own. They must document evidence, such as photographs of injuries or poor living conditions, and maintain detailed records of observations. Legally, professionals are often mandated reporters under laws such as the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, requiring them to report suspected abuse to relevant authorities, such as animal welfare organizations or law enforcement. Failure to report can result in legal consequences and further harm to the animal. Ethically, professionals must act with integrity and prioritize the animal's welfare. Confidentiality must be maintained, except when sharing information with authorized personnel during investigations. By addressing abuse responsibly, animal care professionals uphold the standards of their profession and contribute to the broader goal of protecting animal welfare. Why are breed standards important in maintaining the health and welfare of purebred animals, and how can deviations from these standards impact their well-being? Answer: breed standards define the ideal physical and behavioral traits for purebred animals, guiding breeding practices to preserve their health and functionality. For instance, standards for working breeds may emphasize strength and endurance, while companion breeds prioritize temperament and adaptability. Deviations from breed standards, such as breeding for exaggerated traits, e.g., brachycephalic dogs with short snouts, can lead to significant health issues, including respiratory problems and joint disorders. Overemphasis on aesthetics over functionality can compromise the animal's quality of life and increase veterinary costs. By adhering to breed standards, breeders promote the sustainability of purebred populations and reduce the prevalence of inherited conditions. Ethical breeding practices and education about breed-specific needs ensure that animals lead healthy, fulfilling lives, aligning with animal welfare principles and industry regulations.